All right, and welcome back, everyone, to another segment of Inside Bodybuilding. Taylor and I are now with our next guest. It is retired IFBB pro, Gunter Schlierkamp. Gunter, welcome to the show.
Welcome. How you doing?
Doing very good. Thanks for coming on the show. This is going to be a big show. You're one of 3 guests we're going to have on for Inside Bodybuilding, so it's very exciting. I want to give for the 4 people listening that don't actually know who you are, I got to give a little brief background on some of your highlights in your career. You won the German championships in 1990 at just 20 years old. Turned pro, did your first show at 23 years old, and then, as everybody knows, you're probably your biggest accolade was knocking off King Ronnie Coleman at the 2002 GNC Show of Strength. So, very decorated career.
I counted 28 top 10 finishes in the IFBB. So, I don't know if that sounds about right, Gunter.
That sounds all right. You know what? I wouldn't even know. But, I have to say, for me, I was, it's almost, if you enjoy what you do, you just do it. You know what I mean? It's like at some point I just wanted to be part of it and finishing good. And for me, it was never really important to, you have to win. I always lived, especially in the beginning of my career, I lived always on the response of the fans. And if the crowd was there and behind you, that's what drove me. And going back to that every year. And that was my enjoyment. So it wasn't really always a placing,
For sure.
Absolutely. You must have been an awesome athlete as a teenager. What kind of, did you do any other sports besides weight training as a young kid?
I did track and field, and I played soccer. So I was a little soccer boy.
Did you see those, or was it strictly bodybuilding? Did you know that was kind of your path from the get-go?
Say it again?
Did you know, did you have a legitimate shot to be a pro in either of those sports, or did you know all along it was going to be bodybuilding?
To be honest, it started when I became a teenager, and soccer players normally not very big or bulky, and then I actually was always athletic, but I always was pretty solid. So, then I was 14 years old, and then people told me, you need to watch, kind of like you're getting too big for the stuff almost, So, it came actually, it just started at 12 years old, pretty much. I saw Conan, started lifting with a little dumbbell at home at 12 years old, and till I was 16. And I touched the weight, and everybody at school was saying, "Man, dude, it's like, what's happening to your arms?" And I was, and it seemed like, wow, but maybe it does something. So from that point on, so mid-teenage, like 14, 15, when I really got a little bit too big for like playing soccer and running around, I kind of focused more on weightlifting already then,
Do you remember how big you were when you decided to put 100% focus into weightlifting?
I was about 85 kilograms. So it's, what is it? It's 100, probably 100.
I think it's a little, about 180, I think would be.
180 pounds?
Yeah.
And I was 16 years old.
Nice.
Right. That's still, it's a big 16-year-old. Absolutely.
It's a bodybuilder's dream to be told you're too big to be doing whatever you're doing, right?
Yeah, kind of. But the thing is this, look, I grew up on a farm, and my dad, man, I didn't get much support from my family. So when I had to passion for something, I had to go after it myself. So even when I signed up at 16 for a gym in Germany, you are grown up at 18, you can sign yourself into clubs and stuff at 18. So I was 16, so I had to convince my dad that that's what I want to do. And the first thing he told me, put your energy into something else and make some money. So that's what he told me.
Was that pretty discouraging that your dad that your family didn't support you? Was that discouraging?
No, no, but, I pretty much, I don't know. I always I don't know, if I look at my son now, I consider myself, I probably was a tough kid, because when I put something in my head, I really forced things to make it happen. And even though if it wasn't always a family plan, but I found a way always around it. So, I don't know. I was very driven at a young age. So that wasn't really what it was. So.
Right. Taylor, you want to get in there?
Yeah, for sure. I was just, Gunther, you said you started putting on muscle pretty easily, and that's did you notice like muscular shape? When did people start pretty much? I noticed a lot of good bodybuilders with good genetics. They usually have someone who sort of pushes them towards bodybuilding. When did you become actually aware of competitive bodybuilding and the whole posing and the actual competition side of it? And when did you get interested in that?
Look, I was 16, so that was the first time that I went to a gym. It was right on my birthday.
Oh, okay.
And I actually went to the gym. I trained for 3 months, and all of a sudden, the gym owner who was competing at the time, by himself too, and he was a heavyweight guy. He looked at me, came up to me just randomly, and I said, "Dude, you have great genetics, man. You need to go do competitions." I said, "What is it?" I didn't even know at the point what it is. I was just coming in the gym, train, and leave. So, and then, he took me to one of the local shows and things like that, and I checked it out. So at first, I could never imagine going in posing trunks on stage. It was like, "Oh, really? So that's all you wear?" I just grew up differently. So anyway, and I had to open my eyes to it, and then I kind of saw, actually, look, it was in 1986 and 88. I did my first competition with 18. And then I, start looking at it, and I obviously at the time it was a growing sport in Germany. Everybody was like impressed with it and stuff. So when I said, maybe I do it. So at 18, I did my first show. I walked on stage and set right away a record as a junior with 103.5 kilograms. Oh, wow. What is pretty much like 210, 215 pounds.
So you not only had the size right away, but pretty much you started looking like a bodybuilder pretty quick once you started working out?
Yeah, pretty much. And then I was 18 years old. So and then the people, when I walked on that stage, I was in junior 3 in the heavyweight class. And was a groan to like a moaning going through the whole audience because of my size. I just dwarfed everybody. People couldn't believe it. So, and I won 6 or 7 shows in a row, and I went right away to the International German Championship, and I was, I was evenly pointed, and so it could have been me or the other one for first place in International German Cup. We had the same amount of points, but because I didn't go at the time to the Junior World Championship, and because that was my first shows, so I just did a bunch of shows in the fall. I couldn't really, so they gave the first place to the guy who actually went further on to the Junior World Champion, and I got second, but with the same amount of points. I could have gone either way at the point.
So you had the German people behind you pretty quick. So any lack of support you might have had from your family, I guess you picked up pretty quick from the fans.
Actually, yeah. So all of a sudden, my dad was all over it. And
as soon as people start cheering your name, I guess it changes.
I tell you what, you should have seen their faces. My first shows I did when the newcomer, when I walked out on stage, my dad actually went with some of his friends, and my uncle, they came to the show, and my uncle said, your dad sank into the seats when they were screaming when you walked on stage. And he said, it's like I saw their faces, they couldn't even believe it. They were like, oh my gosh, it's like, what's happening? So it was definitely a trend that is not known in our family. I grew up with 2 other brothers. They do what got us told: you work hard, you make money, and you live your life, Yeah. And I just was a little different. I always approached other things, and I tried to do, I'd be passionate about things, At
that age, was your motivation to be a pro, or was it just like a lot of guys now, just to chase girls?
To be honest, I always, had a girlfriend, and But my first motivation, believe me or not, was at that point, really becoming a pro and being successful in the sport and push as hard as I can that direction, And I tell you what, I was listening in the beginning to, people, what they thought would be best. And I never on weekends, even though I had a girlfriend, we didn't go out, and that's normally party time. If you're like 18, 20 years old, you're like out every weekend and not even twice. So I actually didn't do that really. So I was, strung to my diet and training and make everything that I got enough sleep and, drink a lot of water. And I did the things that were good. And then I didn't really want to mess around because when I was going out, I wasn't really into drinking and stuff. And, right. So it didn't made really much sense for me to go and drive the drunk people home, Hey,
can you talk about that moment when you finally made the decision to leave Germany, get on an airplane, and make it to California?
All right. So I won at 22. I won the European Championship, and somebody told me, that you can already ask for a pro card. You can turn pro with your European champion, all right? So I said no. And then another guy said, no, you have to win the world Mr. Universe World Champion, and that's the most important. So I listened to him and said, okay, I do it. So I waited a year longer. At 23, then I went to at 22, I won the European champion. A year later, I won the Mr. Universe World Champion. And I won the German Championship heavyweight and the European Championship heavyweight at 22 in the same year. So, and then a year later, I went to the Mr. Universe. And so after the Mr. Universe, my dad and everybody said, in Europe, the sponsorships weren't there yet. Not as they were here in America. So, and I was always looking for, okay, what do you do? What do you do next? And I was like still really bound to my family, and I didn't really wanted to, leave home kind of, because I was so connected. And then I waited for 3 years, and at 26, I say, my girlfriend. Also, later than my first wife, she, we kind of said one night, and I was like, we really had a serious look into it, and I said, okay, now or never, and then we decided pretty much in one night, okay, let's go. I was 26 years old. We never looked back and never changed our opinion, and we went here and came to America. And, the start was a little rough, though. That I have to say. We actually both considered at some point, even though we are separated and stuff, we considered actually to write a book at some point about it because it was really interesting, the beginning stages here. It was a little rough.
I imagine. So that was when I feel like even in America, they were coming from all parts of the country to move out west to live that bodybuilding dream. So is that right around the time you met up with Charles Glass and all those guys, or what's the time?
I tell you what happened. I first trained in New Kearney, Jersey. In Kearney, Jersey. That's near Newark.
Oh, all right.
It's pretty much, I don't know, I always say it was a dumb place of New York.
It's not too nice over there.
But look, we were living in a factory building. I did the Night of the Champions, and I had a really good showing. So even though I placed 12th there, and everybody was like, what's going on? Because I just looked humongous. But there were 50 people in a contest, and I placed 12th. So, and everybody was coming up at the show to me because it was my first show here in the States. And then somebody came up to me, man, you need to come out here, stay with me. The judges don't even know you here. You have to come out, and you have to, stay here that the people get to know you, and you have to be in the magazines and blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay. So we went back home. This guy calls me several times, and I said, all right, I'm out there. We're booking a flight, and we come out there on a plane. He was supposed to pick us up. So we did arrange the traveling, came out there, trained in Newark, and guess what? We never saw the guy. He didn't pick us up. So now we were stranded there at the airport, really with nowhere to go. And then I had his number. We called from the airport, and, they still had payphones then. And he called me, and he was saying, what do you mean? And like, you at the airport? I said, dude, I talked to you yesterday on the phone. You called me, German, said, we're coming out tomorrow, and you said you picked me up. Oh yeah, man, I didn't know you really mean it. I said, are you serious? Is this really what it is? So he was telling me really that he didn't believe that I would actually come. So anyway, he picked us up then. We bought a mattress at a store, and guess where he took us? We slept in a factory building where there must have been dogs living before, because there was like dog poop all over the place and stuff like that. So we had to clean up, and we slept on a mattress on the floor in a factory building that was like, empty and stuff, so there was nothing going on. But obviously, if you come to the country, so and you have no hotel to stay really and all this stuff, no address. I mean, if the cops would have probably seen us there, they probably would have taken us to the airport and thrown us right out.
It's no wonder she divorced you, Gunter.
Actually, best thing is, she didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. And I had it. So, it was like that. It was like really being there alone. And she didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. And then when I said, okay, what is going on? I say, we need to figure this out. Either way, we leave and go back or whatever. And she starts bawling. So then she, in the same time, when we talked about everything, as soon as we talked it through and what she had to complain about, I put her in that position. Of course, it was all my fault. She didn't want it to go, blah, blah, blah. And actually, she asked me to marry her. Guess what happened? So we went back, got married in Germany, and came back to the same place again.
The factory? Wow.
But point, the guy pretty much was a con artist, and we lost about we had some money and stuff, but we lost about $11,000.
Oh, wow.
Because you have to understand what most people don't know. If you come to this country, you have to have a social security number to open up a bank account and things like that. And at the time, with credit cards and stuff, we didn't really want to do that. And it was taking a long time to get money at the time. It wasn't all really functional and working as it does today. So we trusted, we put it on an account on his name. Obviously, yeah, that was the dumbest thing we ever did. But there was obviously at first a little trust. He somehow got our trust. And then we don't have the money again. So that was part of it.
What was your first exposure?
The good thing is, the reason why we came back, I found my first sponsor, Universal Nutrition, in that time when we were out there the first time. And that was for us, okay, there's obviously an opportunity here and we need to grab it. And we did. And as tough as it was, but it was great. So we had a good time.
What was your first exposure to the sort of the Venice, the typical California bodybuilding scene like Matt was referring to? When was the first time you kind of met those guys in the Gold's Gym type vibe?
It was 1997, I would say, 1997 in May, when I made the move from Kearney to, we were living a year pretty much out there on the east side, and then we came to California. I ran into Ed Connors, and he said, dude, what are you doing over there? You need to come to California. And I did, and that's how I got to see everything and meet everything. And obviously, it was just, at first, you're in awe, because it's kind of, like just the Venice Beach walk, the people try to live their dreams and stuff. That is obviously pretty inspiring and things like that. So, that was only
did you read about it in the magazines? Like, did you have an idea of what it looked like beforehand?
Yeah, I kind of read in the magazines about it, but also, friends have told me about it. I had some friends who were out here before, and it was like, they kind of put a picture in your head, and then you kind of get all excited about it.
For sure.
So you were out there in 97. That was right around when Dorian retired, and then there was the vacancy at the Olympia. Everybody was there, from Sean Ray to Flex Wheeler, yourself, Cormier. Was the buzz like just incredible that there'd be a new champ that year, or what?
I don't know. You know what? To be honest, it's I didn't really know anybody that well. You know what I mean? Before, I saw some of the guys at shows, but it was always like just a hi, how you doing? Oh, great, and then it was very plain and simple. But I do know that, I got a lot of attention from everywhere. I mean, that was also part of just the look I had. Everybody said you should go into movies, and I did really well from the beginning on. I mean, I had people like turn me in different ways. I had bad experiences with managers and stuff. So, there is when you come to a country and it's not, you don't know much about it, you don't speak the language that well, and everybody's jumping on you and you get pulled in different direction. Sometimes you can go wrong direction. So there's I had some troubles with some managers and stuff, and because they just had a different idea than I had, and it kind of, I noticed pretty quick. I mean, I had that happen in Germany before too, that people like to take advantage sometimes if you really in, how you say that, if you get a lot of attention, people like to be around it, and that can sometimes pull you in different directions. And like I said, I had dealt with a manager in the beginning. First it looked all good, but then it turned out to be bad, and there were a lot of stuff going on like that. So, but the good thing is I got a lot of attention. I figured out my ways. I got pretty quick into some acting lessons, and I did a lot of TV commercials, on the side by actually getting attention from Joe, and he invited me to his office, and I got finally a real good contract. And I mean, it started all really well for me from that point on as soon as I got out to California, because it was just, I don't know, for some reason, it worked its way out. I directed myself pretty well through the new environment, I guess,
On the topic of Joe Weider, a lot of bodybuilders have said they kind of have not a love-hate, but it was kind of on again, off again with Joe. Can you explain sort of your relationship with him? Was he always good to you, or were there times where kind of, you fell out of his good books? And
I truly have to say, and I don't know what people always expect. Here's the thing: I think I didn't expect as much as I got from anything. You know what I mean? I didn't expect it much. Some people might come in and expect the most of it. I don't know, but I cannot say anything bad about the Weider family. I mean, Joe, Ben, whoever it was, I got treated really well. If I had issues, they always say, come to us, we try to help and stuff. But also, here's the thing, I came out and I wanted to do well. I didn't matter. I mean, it's like, Weider was the only company. I mean, I was the only athlete of 28 athletes that Weider sent out to Walmart appearances. I went to shareholder meetings. I trained with CEOs of the Walmart Corporation. I went to the corporate headquarters in Bentonville, Arkansas several times and met with the head honchos, the CEOs, and then, talked about some of the products. I went, when they have the meetings, the shareholder meetings, I went to several booth spaces, and then, because I was always willing to go an extra mile. Even Ben sent me out to some of his friends he had when they had, they wanted a guy for an appearance. It was in Tahiti. And I said, Ben, I go to Tahiti. I said, I just fly out there and do a guest appearance. So there were like 2,000 people for an event there. So, and he wanted to send somebody that he can trust and always does a good job and is polite. And I was the chosen one at the time. So, but, I don't know. It seems like I can say nothing bad about it, because I always said they tried to pull my weight. I always wanted to do more than they asked me to,
Yeah, you had realistic expectations, I think is probably the difference.
Yeah, I guess I did, and like I said, I had some real good times with Joe and stuff, and I don't know, he really had a heart for the bodybuilders, and it grew stronger and stronger at the end, and obviously he cannot take everybody and lift them up, and I mean, a lot of the. Here's the thing. I know a lot of the people made also stupid mistakes. It's not. It's not always. Joe cannot go and pulls everybody out there and says, "Here, go and do your thing." I don't know. I think I'm pretty sure that everybody could have a great relationship with Joe. Joe wasn't that difficult to have a good relationship with. That's what I thought, you know. So I don't know. It for me it worked out great, and I know that, you know, I didn't feel like I got treated specially. I just did a lot, and I always asked, what can I do? You know, if you know, is there anything I can do more or something? I was always calling in sometimes. What can I do? You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Hey Gunter, let's talk a little bit about your training and nutrition when you were competing. In the off season, did you stay close to your competition weight, or did you get a little fatter?
I did get a little fatter, but I was never really that I would say I was like totally fat. You know, I mean, I had I don't know. I lost. Look, I competed around 295 at the end, and sometimes I was reaching 300. So 290, between 290 and 300, it was my competition weight, and I went up most of the time to like around 325 when I bulked up.
That's not too bad.
That's not too bad, and actually, you know, the heaviest I ever went was 337, but I do have to say I had to force it, and man, I just couldn't do it all the time because it was really hard to get up to that weight. I mean, it's like you pretty much just eat, train, and sleep, you know?
Yeah. I'm not good at the metric system, but how tall are you? What's your official height?
I would, you know, maybe I shrunk a little bit, but actually I'm around 6'2". So some people say 6'1", but I know I got measured one time like 186 centimeters. I think it's around 6'2".
You're definitely one of the biggest guys to ever compete in the Olympia stage, I would say. The only other guy, you're on Lou Ferrigno territory.
Yeah, actually, weight-wise, I definitely was one of the heaviest, I guess.
For sure.
No.
So if you're only gaining 25 or 30 pounds at the absolute max in the off season, it doesn't sound like you had to struggle too hard in your contest prep to get down to, you know.
No, actually, do you know what? To be honest, I didn't. You know, I didn't really have to struggle that hard. It was, you know, also I kind of figured out really, you know, how my timing in my system actually, you know, my metabolism works, you know. It's funny. I actually had at the end, you know, that I always drove better when I had my sheeting once a week, a sheeting day. When I really had like a high calorie day once a week, that's when my diet worked the best. It's almost like I needed, you know, because, you know, I always fluctuate my weight a little bit with carbohydrates, and I always left the protein and the fat pretty much the same. But when I had like this once a week, it almost seems like your metabolism had to work that day so hard, and the next day you go back on your diet, it almost seems like it burns a lot higher. Your metabolism always goes higher instead of going lower with your calories. If you're constantly going lower with your calories, always your metabolism slows down, and at the end you cannot even eat enough or hold enough to keep your muscle size. You know, to keep your muscle, you have to eat. You know, it's like, and you cannot starve yourself. You know, I always said, if you watch a Biggest Loser, I said that is an easy diet. Because there is a point, if you start eating like they do, and they eat from 10, 15,000 calories to nothing, or like 3,000 calories or 2,500 calories a day, you know, all of a sudden you don't get hungry anymore. My wife, Kim, obviously trained with the Biggest Losers, and I said, the guys, they're not even hungry. And I said, I was constantly hungry. I woke up in the middle of the night, had a protein shake next to my bed that I had to zip on, because that my stomach had something to do, because I was always hungry. And I think that is really harder than anything else. You know, dieting and losing muscle, as soon as you lose muscle, you're not as hungry.
At HardcorePeptides.com, we pride ourselves with providing only the highest quality USA-made peptides and research chemicals. Hardcore Peptides stands proudly behind its quality, and so can you, thanks to our mass spectrum testing of all our peptides and research chemicals. Now, Projectbodybuilding.com members and listeners can save 20% off the best quality peptides and research chemicals with the discount code PBB20. Why go anywhere else for your research needs? Shop hardcorepeptides.com today and save. Use the coupon code PBB20 and get 20% off your order. That's hardcorepeptides.com. Iron Mag Labs is the creator of the most hardcore bodybuilding supplements on the market. Makers of the original formula Super DMZ and now Super DMZ 3.0, Iron Mag Labs brings you the strongest legal pro hormones on the market. Also available are Epitrin, Halo Extreme, Epistane, and Asta RX. Go to ironmaglabs.com right now and order from a wide selection. If you are a fan of Project Bodybuilding, please support this company. IronMagLabs.com, the most hardcore bodybuilding supplements on the market. Period.
Was the cheat day something implemented any of your coaches? I know you worked with, I believe Chad Nichols at times, or is that something you came up with in your own?
I talked with Chad about that at the time. In the beginning, he didn't really, I think he wasn't a fan of it, but he said actually, we always had in the beginning of the diet even, eat 70% good, 30% bad, something like that. So that was in the beginning to gain some weight. When you were high calories, obviously in the end you kind of have to clean it up. But we, at the end, I actually, we talked a little bit about it, that I feel like, it is actually better, and it kind of was working, so.
Perfect. Did with your height being so tall, you said you pretty much grew very fast. Was there any disadvantages you found to your height, like structure wise? Was there any body parts that didn't quite fill out as quick as the shorter guys you were competing against?
Here's the thing. Obviously, I say this, everybody who is over 6 foot will have a harder time than bodybuilders who are below 6 foot. Is filling out the length of your arms, your legs, for me, I always had a hard time getting my calves fallen around because I just have such a long muscle down there, it feels my lower leg is really long. So, and my calf shape, it's not that my calf was actually small. I didn't have the knot because my muscle was built different. And, and you see, for me, arms, obviously, if I have long arms, my biceps reacted really well, but my tricep took a while to get it to a look that it actually comes around thick, some of Kevin Levrone kind of triceps. It took me a long time to get to that point to look round on my frame. The bigger your frame is or your lengthier you are, the harder it is to fill it out. For instance, if a Jay Cutler is probably, 5'8", if he puts on 20 pounds, it looks almost twice as much on his frame than it looks on my frame. So I have to put on at least 30 or 35 to 40 pounds to look the same, or look at, if we do that on a year and he gains 20 pounds in a year and I gain 20 pounds on his frame, it looks bigger than on mine.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? So you always have to put on more size. And at some point, that's why you get to a size. I had to go to 300 pounds to finally beat Ronnie. I think when I beat Ronnie, I was 302. Yeah, and
one thing I've definitely noticed is just going back and looking, through the videos and whatnot. You at least on the outside looked as though you had a much healthier appearance than a lot of your competitors that you went against. What do you think contributed to that?
I always. Here's the thing. I think I didn't take it the easy way. I always worked hard, I guess. How you say that? I mean, it's like you have to do certain things sometimes, obviously, and if you do a little bit too much of it, it just makes you not look that good, or makes you look healthy. And for me, I always thought on the long run, only a healthy body can sustain and can survive in the sport, and then bodybuilding is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So I always never pretty much overdid it, I made sure that I worked with nutrition first and sleep, training and rest before I did everything else.
You think the other guys were a bit more short-sighted? They would load up a bit more on the chemicals with an immediate goal, not realizing.
I just give you an explanation. Jean-Pierre Fuchs.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I beat him at 23, and he was probably the same age at the Mr. Universe. He was at the same Mr. Universe. I was first, he was fifth, I think, that year. A year later, he came, and he just blew out of proportion. I think he came and won the year later the Mr. Universe. And then from the Mr. Universe to his first pro debut, I mean, it was a different person. And, I don't know. I know how long it takes and if you graduate. But the thing is, if you run fast, you run out of gas fast. That's what I say. It's a sprinter is not a marathon runner, and like I said, bodybuilding is not a sprint. If you want to get there fast, you don't last for long, And right. that is I've seen that with many athletes that happens. And I think if you make an extreme progress, there's a cause for it, in my opinion. I mean, first of all, you have to think of this. Over the years, I gradually kept weight up. Now imagine you put on 50 pounds on a heart in 1 year. You know what your heart says? I mean, that comes all down to things like that too, I mean, your heart has to pump blood through all that weight and muscle. And I don't know. I think it's kind of like you have to develop over years, It's not like a 1 year project. It takes a decade,
For sure.
It's actually a good transition because I'd love to get your opinion on, because, 97, 96 through even today, we've seen bloated guts left and right. Everybody's got the big distension in their stomach. And there's been a million different conspiracies on why it is, whether it's growth hormone or insulin use or just eating too much. Obviously you talked about people who are trying to rush the process, but if you could pinpoint one thing, since you've seen it from almost the beginning to where we are now, what would you highlight it being the reason?
I actually think it's a combination of a lot of things, and the biggest reason, in my opinion, is, here's the thing. I've seen many people who take growth hormone, right? And I've not seen like an extended gut on those people. And I tell you what, though, what I think it makes a difference if people start doing both insulin and the growth hormone. And I think that is the insulin with eating huge amount of carbohydrates. You see, you can store only that much glycogen in your muscles. And then, and somewhere, where does that overeating, when people then think, I can eat as much as I want and blah, 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 where does it store? Where's that storage for that? And I actually believe it has to be stored somewhere, and some of it goes to your gut. I mean, I know people, they try to put more and more in there. It's like your muscle can only fill up that much. There is a line. And so where does it go? And I think, that combination insulin, hormones, and growth hormones, that is what actually, in my opinion, gives it extended gut, Mm-hmm. So that's because I've seen people who just using, working with growth hormone or do longevity and stuff, and I have not seen any extended stomachs with that, On another hand, it can be too, the amounts of growth hormone you take, it's another thing. I know, obviously you do it, but the thing is, I said, I heard about some crazy things, and that some of the people, use, like in that kind of amount. And I think, maybe it has to do with that, because, I was using some, but like I said, I was never going that I had my stomach out above my chest. And that's always,
What was the highest you've ever heard someone?
My stomach goes, when I walk on stage and the first thing you see is your gut, I said, then I don't like it anymore.
Time to retire.
I'm doing it, so...
Gunter, what was just out of curiosity the highest number you or the most of it you heard anyone taking back then that you just thought was absurd? of growth hormone?
To be honest, I heard the craziest was 32 IUs a day.
Oh, wow.
And here's the thing, and at that point, I had actually a conversation with with Chad Nichols. I said, because I said, how do you know how much your body really needs? How much does your liver convert to IGF-1? That wasn't really, these days I know people take IGF-1. I've never, for instance, I've never tried it. I've never taken straight IGF-1. Now I hear everybody's using it.
Actually, I have some breaking news. That 32 IUs of growth hormone was actually by Sean Ray. he was trying to grow taller is what it was.
Yeah, I tell him that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it works at that point anymore, though. But like you said, the liver has had to convert the regular growth hormone, obviously, to IGF-1. So how does it? You don't know really how much it converts. You can waste a lot of money right there. It isn't cheap.
Yeah, there's got to be a limit. 32 can't be twice as good as 16. Or which can't. It's not a linear path. Not worth it.
Anyway, and I did this when I noticed. I did a competition and I worked my way up, because here's the thing, you can what do you do with a glass of water when you fill it up? It's full. If you put more in it, it spills over. And that's what happened to your body. And I think that's when your body fatigues. You look sick, you look unhealthy, These are all points of it. And then I kind of worked my way really slowly up. And if I noticed, for instance, I had a great showing 1 year and I did only this much. And with that, I said, why would I go the next time and double everything if I don't need to? If I can have progress, they would say it doesn't make sense. So that's how I was treating it,
Is there anybody from your generation that, because you seem like a really nice guy, there's been nothing that would seem otherwise. Is there anybody from your generation that you just didn't get along with at all? You just saw him and you wanted to punch him.
Here's the thing. I never had an issue with anybody. I know that, some people might have an issue with me. I don't know. It's just, sometimes you hear things behind your back, and I said, where does that come from? I never had any bad intention with everything. I say, it's a great sport. We are all into it, and everybody tries to do the best we know. And hold on.
Somebody's robbing his Porsche.
It sounds like it.
We all had. I always thought we are into. Obviously, bodybuilding is pretty. It's a selfish sport, and you're in there for yourself. But the thing is, in all together, we were in there and we're competing against each other. And I thought, the camaraderie was not really, always great. I wouldn't say it was bad, but it wasn't always perfect or great. But it's just a tough sport if you're competing against each other and individual, and everybody wants to be on top and the best. Well,
it's funny you say that, because I think there's this conception online right now, just mostly on the internet, because since the internet, all these bodybuilders don't feel the need to travel to California to make a name for themselves. So they're in New York, they're in California, they're in Texas, they're in Florida, and I think the impression is that a lot of these guys don't have that camaraderie and friendship like they did in the 90s. But I think it's kind of neat to hear that you say a lot of that camaraderie really wasn't there anyways, because you guys were all competitive and vying for a championship and to be great at your own individual, at your own individual best.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's pretty neat. How much are you following bodybuilding right now? Do you follow it closely in 2015 or not so much?
To be honest, I'm not following it that closely. I'm still kind of interested in hearing stuff, and I try to go once a week. I try to go to Venice and pretty much, kind of see Charles or I trained there with a friend of mine, you know, and then I kind of ran into Dexter Jackson and some other, Josh Rogan and stuff. So it's kind of fun to see them and they going at it. And I just talked to Dexter. I said, you know, one thing I always admire is that because of his age, you know, he definitely has the longest career. He's still at it. He still looks great, and he's enjoying what he does, you know. You see, for me, it kind of, I don't know, it's like, for me, it seems like it changed a little bit in recent years. And, I don't know if that fascination is there with bodybuilding like it used to be. And, I just feel like, I don't know, I remember it's hard for me to, you know, obviously if you're not competing anymore, it's a big part of your life you miss. I mean, that's all I cared about, you know. So now you're not in it anymore. So it's hard to sit for me at front. I'm a very bad competitor who sits in front of the stage. I just have a hard time with it, because if I see them coming on stage, it reminds me always on their Mandalay Bay times and the how people were, the atmosphere. And I think it has changed so much with the changes in the sport that, I'm not dead 100% in it, but I'm still interested in people and how they do and then how they go and approach it, you know.
Are there any newer bodybuilders or out of the top guys? I know you mentioned Dexter, but who else do you sort of admire or you think is doing well, or who do you sort of pay attention to?
Is it Sean Rogan?
Yep.
Yeah, I admire him, actually. Here's the thing, I look his physique, and I don't know, if I'm just saying, if he comes in, and I said him, you know, the first year when he played third, you know, the only thing I told Charles is like, dude, he puts on a few more pounds and just comes in dialed in, man. I don't know. It's like, because he's symmetrical, I really like his body, and I think he has everything. And he really is so far as I met him, he's a real nice guy and stuff. And I think he could do well. I like his body way better than some of the others. You know, I like I said, you know, there's a lot of extended guts, and it's just beefy. I mean, the beauty of the sport is almost, you know what I mean? It's like he presents the beauty of the sport. How does that sound?
Yeah. How would you rank your physique at its all-time best? Maybe 2002 or 2005. How would you rank that against your other countryman, Dennis Wolf?
I don't know. I definitely would have given it a hard time in 2002 when I beat Ronnie, because I do have to say that year, especially at the Olympia, I actually believe that I looked at the Olympia better than at the show when I beat Ronnie, you know? I mean, like, I don't know, man. It just was popping everywhere, and I think that physique that day, like I said, I was really, really hard to beat, and I think everybody in the audience saw that, so... But, it's hard to say. I mean, you have to kind of see it next to each other. But I was very complete at that time, and my back was just in, and I was striated everywhere and stuff. So that was definitely the top condition I had there, you know.
You've always been super, super politically correct when it comes to that fifth place in 2005. Do you think... And, you know, you went back out and, you know, thanked the crowd and said, you know, the show's got to go on. And, you know, you're very gracious, the whole 9 yards. Now that it's been a decade since then, do you think why do you think you got fifth? I mean, was it politics driven? Was it just not your time? What do you think happened?
It's like, you know, with everything else, I think people didn't know first what to expect. And, I can tell in the morning by the call-outs. So when I walked out, obviously, the crowd was like, oh, my gosh, you know, it's like I could just, everybody was like, Jesus, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know how that is. You know, sometimes the contests are pretty set in who was there last year, and that's always how it starts. It starts with the first comparison, the second comparison, the third. So when I finally came out, and then they saw how good I am, so oh my God, we have to probably, you know, by the time they pulled me out, they probably, you know, saw how, I mean, they couldn't even maybe they couldn't put me up front. I don't know, but like I said, it's really difficult to say what it was, but I just said maybe it wasn't my time, or I just had to pay my dues, I guess.
Right. Gunter, I know you said you never really thought too much about winning or losing as long as the fans were excited and everything like that. After you beat Ronnie in 2002, did you believe at that point that you had a good shot as the favorite for the Olympia that year? More so than other years?
You mean the following year in 2003?
Yeah, sorry. After you beat Ronnie, did you feel like the next Olympia was sort of yours for the taking? Were you surprised?
Actually, I thought I had a good shot, and to be honest, that is something I have never talked really about it. Only some people close to me know about it, and obviously Charles and stuff. And that year, actually, me and my wife decided to get separated. The first couple weeks, I was in phenomenal condition. I looked freaking awesome at 320 pounds, and I really thought I could bring it all in, and I think I would have really gotten even Ronnie as good as he was that year. I could have been pretty close to it. I had 6 weeks out of the show. I got an infection, a staph infection, and it had to go on antibiotic and all this stuff. Oh, no. And I lost in 2 weeks 22 pounds, and I was pretty much, my wife was actually not supporting me anymore, so I was on my own the first time and all this stuff. There was a lot of things falling into place that year that I had my nights there by myself and said, oh my God, what's happening? And but I still pulled it off to get in shape. Obviously, I wasn't as good as I could, but Charles was there, some friends over there, and they, I talked really briefly with Flex Wheeler about it, and he knows about it because I did a guest appearance at the show, and he was just telling me, dude, why did you compete? Why you didn't say, if you can't be at your best and stuff like that? I said, what is considered the best? I still look good. I just could have been way better. So, I couldn't make up the pounds anymore because obviously, as you know, if you put on heavy antibiotics, everything shuts down in your body. Nothing works. And believe me, it was quite some pain. I couldn't even lay anymore. Just laying, it was hurting so bad. So anyway, that was a little thing, but you keep it to yourself and you pull through. And at the end, I don't know if I did myself a favor with it, but I said I do the show and I stick to it. First of all, I also had a contract, and obviously I didn't want to disappoint. And I probably disappointed some fans because they thought I would be better than ever, and I actually possibly I could, but that is the one thing I wonder if that didn't happen, the things and the circumstances in that year could have happened in that year. So I wondered always sometimes how that would have turned out, but that's things like you can change. It's in the past, you get over it and you move on.
For sure.
I'll put you on the spot a little bit here. Hypothetical question. I know you've been vocal about bodybuilding and the IFBB needing to bring back the posing routine in the round because that's part of what makes bodybuilding an art and a sport. That's an easy one if you could change something about the IFBB. What would be something that's maybe not such an easy question for you to answer? If you could, other than the posing round, what would you implement to make bodybuilding a little bit better?
Oh, yeah.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, you do. It is really interesting, but they need to. There's a certain attractiveness missing, and if you look at it, and maybe they found it, I don't know, but now that I hear all about the physique classes, and they seem to be getting really big, right?
Yeah, the men's physique.
The men's physique classes. You see, to me, I know they wear shorts and stuff, but I think all of a sudden, when I look at some of these guys, it's the same with the girls. You have the bodybuilding girls, they look they you know, when you look at Corey Everson, they look like these girls today who do a figure class. So the figure classes now look like bodybuilders in the past, and they think. And now, actually, I feel like the physique guys, if you look at some of them getting bigger too. They have nice physique. The only thing is they're wearing shorts, but they're getting to the point that used to be a Frank Zane, Arnold Schwarzenegger, or like, you know, these kind of like symmetrical, you know, it's, you know, I don't know. I think they pushing bodybuilding to just being heavier and heavier doesn't help, or bigger and bigger, you know. It has to come down to like a really nice symmetry, marketable, you know. That needs to be marketable, you know. And I don't know, you see, the physique classes are marketable. That's people like to do and like to see. Everybody looks at that. If you see for instance, like in crazy condition, Kai Green, man, people can identify with it, you know. And I mean, as hard as Kai works, and I know how much hard he works. Same with Phil; they work all freaking hard, and then it needs to be something different. But you know, I don't think that it helps directly the sport of bodybuilding to get more people interested in bodybuilding. The physique classes, I think, will actually change or bring more people into it. I mean, obviously you can tell the shows are filling up and stuff. That doesn't come because of bodybuilding. It comes because of all the physique classes. Maybe they're on the right track. I don't know.
Yeah, we've talked about this on our website before, that you got the physique, which is, you know, that's fine. That's for the smaller guy. And then you got the freak, which is the bodybuilder. But if they got the men's physique guys out of the board shorts and made them put on, you know, not posing trunks, but something shorter where you could see the progress in their legs, and it would be that classic bodybuilding look where it's something for everybody at that point. Yeah,
that's what I mean. I mean, what board shorts? What does it mean? I mean, here's the thing to me, you know, you call it, what do they call it, physique, or what is it? Is it
men's physique?
Yeah, men's physique.
We call it men's bikini. But
how can you take out of a man's physique his how you say that, like his legs and everything else? How can you take that out of a physique? You can't take that out of physique. That makes a physique. If you go to a beach and stuff, you know, it's like in Europe they wear Speedos, yeah, but you see, like, if you see a guy, they call him a chicken because if he has no legs but an awesome upper body, they say, what, are you forgetting to train legs, or are you just a chicken, you know? And what I'm saying is, how can you take that away? It belongs to the physique, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
yeah, let's talk about, we'll let you go here pretty soon, but I have a couple things I want to ask you before we let you go. How's retirement? You said you did, you're doing acting now. And before I let you answer that, I've heard on other interviews you do a really good Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. I would love to hear it if you can do it.
Hey, so acting, yeah. Actually, I after I retired, I took some acting classes in Hollywood, like 3 times, pretty much 3 days a week, and it was a pretty interesting thing. So because I really focused in on it for 1 year, and I did pretty good. I got invited to a master class and stuff. But for right now, because me and my wife Kim, we worked on a business. She had a business idea. It calls Bionic Body. And guess what? BionicBody.com wasn't even taken. So we own the name now. And we open up a facility here in Hermosa Beach. It's functional training. And we have actually a spa in there too. We do facials, massages, and we train. My wife Kim, she had an idea for a track system with resistance band training that goes from like 20 to like 100 pounds of resistance, and it's going actually pretty well. We are consistently growing and doing pretty good. So, and because of that, and I was involved, obviously, family. I have a son, and somebody has to be around him and stuff. So I haven't done much acting or went to auditions lately, and I had to put that aside because of, building the business and laying on hands myself makes it a little bit tough. So
yeah, I remember seeing you pop up in that movie Beer Fest, and I was like, holy shit, it's Gunter. I wasn't expecting to see you in there, and you just
Yeah, it's like I get some free coffees on that. I go to Starbucks and people are like, "Man, you're in BFS," and then I get my coffee, and then I said, "Oh, it's for free." I said, "Oh, thanks."
There you go. That's worth it. It's worth it right there.
Yeah, so now actually I did a blog with this Broken Lizards guy, and I get asked all the time why they're not coming up with the second part, and I actually talked to these guys, Broken Lizards. See, they are the writers of the movie, and they produced it, and they said, "Yeah, man, I can't believe it. We get so much request." And I said, "You should have done one." But it comes all down. There's so much behind it. I mean, Warner Brothers owes the rights to the movie and getting that back and all this stuff. So there's a lot going on. I think they would have done by now if they would own the right to the movie and all the stuff. So they probably would have done it right by now.
Just a quick question. Everyone's probably somewhat curious. We always see some bodybuilders, they pretty much, they shrink down pretty good. Other ones sort of keep it up. What's your training these days look like? Kind of where are you sitting? How much are you still into it? What are you doing with your own bodybuilding there?
Yeah, kind of it frustrates me because I'm so used to being in a gym 5 days a week and sometimes even twice. And now I'm getting to the gym once a week, twice a week, 3 times is already pretty good. So obviously that is sometimes frustrating, but you have to look and balance things out and look what is right now more important, what you're making money with, and that's what you go with,
For sure.
And but I still try to get to the gym three times a week. So I haven't really consistent lately because of, like I said, the business is going well, and then we have to push it and then keep it going like that. And then so if I get my time, I will jump for an hour into the gym. Obviously the intensity is not anymore as it is, but I learned to train actually a little bit lighter, and I do just for that getting a good pump. I'm not pushing the weights because believe me, after doing weights for I was started at 12 years old, and then I'm 44 now, turning 45 actually on February 2nd. So believe me, you get a wear and tear over the years, pounding like 530 pounds in benches and doing all that squatting. So the tendons and the joints are not the same anymore like they were 10 or 12, 20 years ago, Yeah. So you have to work around it and work a little bit differently.
Absolutely. There's no chance we'd ever see you pop up if there was a Masters IFBB show by any chance, is there?
You know what? For what? That is, like I said, I have such a good memory. It's all about, I always say if you try to come back, I don't know. I think you just need to stay in it, and because that comeback and stuff, it's never be the same because you would be never satisfied with the outcome because you always have the look in your head that the way how you used to look. So and when you all of a sudden feel like you can't get there, I don't know, it might be more depressing than And I actually have a pretty good memory, and I really have to say I enjoyed that whole part of my life, man. I think I had a great run, and I think that was the biggest thing in my life. And I really had my dream, I said it at one point, if everything I have with, even my family right now and stuff, if it comes down and then people, you like I said, you would die for whatever reason or whatever, I could say, what, I had a good life. And that's really, what I care about. I'm happy with everything I did, and I'm pleased with, and then I don't know, I'm just in a good place, and I think I did all the right things in my life for myself.
Very good. Hey, Gunter, where can all your fans reach you right now in case they want to say hello to you after hearing this interview?
You see, actually, first of all, the Gunter Schlierkamp website, I have two. There's Gunter Schlierkamp, Mr. Universe, and then the other one is Gunter Schlierkamp. Where you always message me, that's where people can actually, I look at the messages myself.
Oh, on Facebook there?
Yeah, on Facebook, and that's how you actually, on that fan page, you can actually send messages there, where you always go, the Gunter Schlierkamp one.
For sure.
And so that's where they can reach me pretty much. That's and then always.
And say the name of your training business again, so everybody can hear that in case they're in Southern California.
Yeah, check out bionicbody.com.
Bionicbody.com. There you go. Very good. Taylor, you want to ask him any more before we let him go?
No, I don't have any more questions. I think we pretty much covered everything. I just wanted to say I'm a big fan. I still always watch some of your videos. The 2002 and 2005 Olympia are pretty much standard viewing for my YouTube there. So just thank you all for coming on, because I'm a big fan and was curious what you're up to. Not a lot of people have heard from you for a long time, so I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to see what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you for being a fan. I appreciate it, buddy.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot, Gunther.
See you later,
and
Gunther.
I'll be back.
He did it. He did it.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, good talking to you guys. Have a good day, and hopefully we meet each other sometime. So
For sure.
Absolutely.
So Kim and I still go out to the Mr. Olympia. We didn't make it out this year because we had to go somewhere else. But normally we always in Vegas. So for the Mr. Olympia and saying hi to people we know. So
Taylor and I will both be there this year. So hopefully we run into you.
We'll find you.
Cool. Sounds good.
See you there.
All right. See you then, man.